Surah Saba. Surah Saba consists of 54 verses including the Makkiyyah surahs revealed after Surah Luqman. It is called Saba because it contains the story of the Saba people. Saba is the name of a tribe of Arab tribes living in Yemen today. They founded a kingdom known as the Sabaiyyah kingdom, whose capital was Marib. They have been able to build a giant dam, called the Marib Dam, so that the Meka country is fertile and prosperous. This luxury and prosperity caused the Sabaean people to forget and deny Allah, who had bestowed his blessings on them, and they also denied the call of the apostles. Because of their disobedience, Allah inflicted on them the punishment of sailul arim, a great flood caused by the breaking of the Marib Dam. After the Marib Dam broke, the land of Saba became dry and their kingdom was destroyed. The main contents of Surah Saba. Allah is most praiseworthy and most extensive in his knowledge. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 1-2. Allah is praised as the one who owns everything in the heavens and the earth, and all praise is due to him in the afterlife because he is all-wise and all-careful. Allah knows everything that goes in and out of the earth, what comes down from the sky and what goes up to the sky because he is most merciful and most forgiving. Disbelief of the unbelievers towards the Day of Judgment and the reward. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 3-6. The Day of Judgment will definitely come, and nothing is hidden from Allah, whether small or large, everything is recorded in a clear book, La Mahfuz. Allah will reward those who believe and do good deeds with forgiveness and noble sustenance. Meanwhile, people who try to oppose Allah's verses with the thought of weakening him will suffer a very painful punishment. Those who are given knowledge believe that the revelations revealed to the Prophet Muhammad are true and provide guidance to the path of Allah the Almighty and the Most Praised. The infidels' mockery of the Prophet Muhammad is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 7-9. The infidels mocked the Prophet Muhammad who preached about the resurrection after death, calling it a big lie or a sign of madness. Those who do not believe in the afterlife will experience torment and error. Allah shows his greatness through the heavens and the earth, that he is able to destroy them, if he wills, as a sign for servants who return to him. God's gift to Prophet David is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 10-12. God gave David a gift by ordering the mountains and birds to glorify David, and softening iron for him. David was asked to make a large coat of armor, measure the iron weave and do good deeds, because Allah is all-seeing of all his deeds. Allah also gave Solomon power over the wind that could travel a month in the morning and evening, and provided copper liquid for him. Some of the jinn worked in front of him with Allah's permission, but those who deviated from his command would receive the punishment of the hell of Sa'ir. God's gift to Prophet Solomon is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 13-14. The jinn always worked for Solomon according to his will, making tall buildings, statues, large plates and pots that remained in place on the stove. Allah commanded David's family to be grateful, but few of his servants were grateful. When Solomon's death was confirmed, only the termites that ate his staff indicated his death, so the jinn realized that if they knew the unseen, they would not have been in humiliating torment. The story of the Sabaeans is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 15-19. Allah gave a sign of his greatness and power to the people of Saba through 2 plots of gardens which were given as sustenance, but they turned away and were rewarded for their disbelief with a great flood which replaced their gardens with trees, a tree bearing bitter fruit. Allah made them a byword and destroyed them because of their arrogance and disbelief, showing signs of his greatness to those who are patient and grateful. The devil has no power to force people to follow him. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 20-21. The devil managed to convince most people of the truth of his assumptions, except for some of the believers. However, the devil's power is limited to distinguishing between those who believe in the afterlife and those who doubt it, because God is the all-preserver of all things. All worshippers other than Allah have no power at all. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 22-23. Allah ordered the Prophet Muhammad to call on those who are considered gods other than Allah, stating that they do not have the power of the weight of an atom in the heavens and the earth, and have no role in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and none of them are his helpers. Intercession is only useful in his sight for those whom he permits, who when fear is removed from their hearts, they acknowledge the truth of the word of their Lord. They acknowledge the greatness of Allah, the Most High and the Most Great. Continuation of the challenge to the polytheists. It is stated in Surah Saba verses 24 to 27. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to confirm that it is Allah who provides sustenance from the heavens and the earth, and that both those who believe and the polytheists are in clear guidance or error. There is no accountability between them. And on the day of resurrection, God will gather and decide between them fairly. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to show the polytheists that there is no God but Allah, the most mighty and the most wise. Universality of the Prophet Muhammad's message. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 28 to 33. Allah sent the Prophet Muhammad as a bearer of good news and a warning to all humans, even though most people are not aware of it. The disbelievers refused to believe in the Quran and previous books, and when confronted with God, they argued and blamed each other. Leaders who are arrogant blame their followers for being weak, while the followers emphasize that it is the leader's deceit that prevents them from obtaining guidance and invites them to disbelieve in Allah. Those who disbelieve hide their regrets when they see the punishment, but they will be repaid according to their deeds. Opponents of the apostles generally came from prominent and wealthy circles. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 34 to 35. Allah explains that when a warner is sent to a country, the people who live in luxury there often reject the apostolate and claim to have more wealth and offspring, and feel that they will not be punished. Only faith and piety determine one's position with Allah. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 36 to 39. Allah explained through the Prophet Muhammad that He gives sustenance to whom He wishes, but most people are not aware of this. Wealth and children are not the main factors that bring someone closer to Allah, but faith and good deeds, which will provide double rewards and security in heaven. Those who try to go against the verses of Allah to deter others from believing will face the punishment of hell. The Prophet Muhammad also reminded that Allah will provide sustenance to whom He wills, and will replace every infaq incurred, because He is the best provider of sustenance. The polytheists will be confronted with their gods. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 40 to 42. On the day of the gathering of all humans, Allah will ask the angels whether all this time humans have only worshipped angels. The angel answered that humans actually always worship jinn, and most of them believe in jinn. On that day, some people will not be able to provide benefits or prevent harm to others. Unjust people will be made to taste the punishment of hell, which they have always lied about. Accusations of the infidel leaders of Mecca against the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran, mentioned in Surah Saba, verses 43 to 45, Allah explains that when His verses were read to the infidels, they accused the Prophet Muhammad of wanting to hinder them from the religion of their ancestors, declaring the Quran a lie and calling it magic. Allah emphasized that before the Prophet Muhammad, they had never been given a holy book or sent a warner. However, the infidel people of Mecca had denied the previous messengers, even though they had not yet fully felt the blessings given to the previous peoples. So they denied the messengers of Allah, and Allah showed how terrible the consequences of His wrath were. The Prophet's refutation of the infidels' accusations, mentioned in Surah Saba, verses 46 to 50. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to give advice to his people so that they would realize that he was not a madman, but rather a warner of the severe punishment that was to come. The Prophet Muhammad explained that the reward he asked for from this dawah was only for the good of his people, and the reward was only from Allah, who is all witnessing of all things. He also stated that his Lord casts falsehood with truth, because He is all-knowing of all that is unseen, and that truth will always triumph over falsehood that will never begin or repeat the truth. The Prophet Muhammad emphasized that if he went astray, it would only affect himself, but if he received guidance, it was because of the revelation he received from God, who is all-hearing and all-near. The fate of the disbelievers in the hereafter. It is mentioned in Surah Saba verses 51 to 54. Allah describes how terrible it is when the disbelievers are shocked with fear on the day of resurrection, unable to free themselves and are caught to be dragged to hell. But when they see the punishment, they pretend to believe even though true faith cannot be easily achieved from a distant place in the mortal world. They had previously disbelieved in the truth and doubted the unseen from faraway places, so that a barrier was placed between them and their desires, as experienced by previous people similar to them, who previously lived in deep doubt. Conclusion of Surah Saba. Surah Saba discusses resurrection in the afterlife, denouncing the actions and beliefs of polytheists and idols that do not provide benefits. This chapter also presents stories, including the story of Prophet David, alayhi salam, and Prophet Sulaiman, alayhi salam, as well as the story of the Sabaean people who lived excessively to the point of forgetting God, and ultimately facing destruction. All of this is a lesson for believers, and as comfort for the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in dealing with unbelievers. In the context of faith, this chapter confirms that Allah's knowledge includes everything in the heavens and the earth, the truth of the day of resurrection and retribution, and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the warner. On the day of resurrection, idols will not be of any benefit, and a person's misguidance will only befall himself, while guidance comes from Allah. The stories told include Prophet David, peace be upon him, Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, and the people of Saba. In addition, the chapter denounces the polytheists who worship idols, describes the recriminations between the misguided leaders and their followers on the day of resurrection, and their attitudes upon hearing the Quran. The messengers did not ask for any reward for their preaching, and the polytheists hoped to return to the world to carry out Allah's commands after realizing their mistakes. The chapter also shows that people who live extravagantly often become enemies of the Prophet. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content.